Welcome to another Forte Growth episode where we interview people doing awesome things online. We go over their successes, insights, and any failures to keep you motivated and inspired. Sit back. Let's go.
Welcome to the Forte Growth podcast. Today, we have Jon Dykstra. I know Jon hasn't been on many podcasts recently, so it was awesome to have him on the podcast and just chat about what he's up to now and what he's doing with his sites. We also dive into, he has the Niche Site Summit coming up at the end of October. If you go down in the description, there'll be a link in there to sign up. It's actually completely free to watch the Niche Site Summit while it's on. I'm actually doing a small presentation on memberships for niche sites, so definitely check that out there. But other than that, we dive into 15 damn sites in his website portfolio, which is crazy. Obviously, if you know Jon or know of Jon, you know that he makes over 6 figures a month just from display ads, which is pretty crazy to think about. He's big on the display ad model. We dive into kind of his processes around there, what he's up to now with his sites to keep them growing and keep them getting better, and why he doesn't like to dive into affiliate. We kind of go down that road and other things there. So that's a lot of display ad talk. If you have a blog that leverages display ads or you're thinking about it, this would be a good chat for you to listen to. So sit back and enjoy. All right. Welcome to the Forte Growth podcast today. We have legendary blogger, affiliate marketer, Jon Dykstra. Welcome, Jon.
Well, there, James. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think you've inspired a lot of people to get into blogging. I know a lot of people that I've interviewed credit them getting into blogging from your income reports, showing how much you're damn making on display ads, which is pretty crazy. But what are you up to nowadays? Are you still doing the same thing? You still running your same sites? Is there anything different you've got on your plate?
Well, yeah, same thing. Really hasn't changed. Still working on the same niche sites. I am focusing more on one. For a number of years there, I was doing the multi-site strategy, and I still own quite a few, but really putting most of my time and effort into one. And actually, one new development is I'm trying to delegate to an agency to run a good chunk of the day-to-day for my largest site. I'm going to give that a run, see how that goes. I'm optimistic. Hope that works out. Other than that, no major changes. Just yakking and emailing with fat stacks and covering my niche sites.
I love it. So how many sites do you currently have in the portfolio?
Oh, I don't know, 15 or so. But I mean, most of them are threw up some, got a harebrained idea on a niche I thought I might be interested in. And actually some of them I'm really interested in. I just don't have time to do it. Like there's some that I think could be great sites just because, it's part of what my life, and, it just takes a lot of time. So I start them, I throw up some content, I even get some ads on them. Save them for rainy days. They might come in handy down the road.
So I know one of those blogs, I remember, I think you were emailing it out a while ago, was a smartwatch blog.
Yeah.
Is that one still going? Is that still going?
No, not really. It's gone through a number of iterations. Probably pulled the plug on that early. I think in that email you're referring to, I've referenced that a lot, and it's actually a niche I really like. It's really hard to crack into. I underestimated that one for sure. I may have pulled the plug on it, where I think I dropped the ball. And, over the years I make a lot of mistakes, and I write about them. And one mistake I made was I pulled the plug on the YouTube channel for that actually. I've checked, I still have it. And I got videos with like 80,000 views.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And quite a few of them actually. And they're not that great. In fact, some are downright horrible just because video's not my thing, but I was playing around with it. So, I saw that and I was like, maybe pulled the plug on that one a bit early. The site really never took off though. I was going up against CNET and Android Central and Wearable. Yeah. And all the big tech sites that have been around for ages cover smartwatches and stuff. I jumped into it because I love smartwatch. I have a bunch. I like tinkering with them, and I think they're cool.
Would you consider just making it a YouTube channel then? Like a YouTube channel business and smartwatch?
Well, I saw those numbers, and it's like years old. They still get like 300 views a month, and these are like outdated smartwatches, which was another interesting thing I learned from that. There's a massive secondhand market for smartwatches, probably for a lot of tech that's priced, $400 or $500 plus, right? My a lot of people always jump to the newest, latest, and greatest, but their 1.5-year-old Apple Watch is perfectly still good. They'll sell it. And there's people who are perfectly happy to get it at a huge discount. So that's interesting because people are still watching those vids. And, you know, if I ever got time and was able to find the right people to help me make the videos, yeah, I would actually like to restart that.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome niche to do on YouTube. But there's a lot of things I want to dive into. So I know you're doing some social stuff, you're doing some email marketing stuff, you've got your main site and all that. We'll go into that. But I want to start with the elephant in most people's room is Google AI or Google SGE with their updates, serving up AI answers to the service. Some people are worried, some people are not. Is this something that has impacted potentially the way you're doing things, or are you adapting or changing anything based on what you think may happen with Google and those updates, or are you just chucking along, same as usual, relying mainly on display ad revenue?
Well, I have put a bigger effort into traffic diversification, so Facebook and Pinterest. So Pinterest is up a lot. Facebook is all over the place, man. Like, Facebook is frustrating. I had several months where it was like huge. It's dropped down now, may go up. So, you know, I'm putting effort into that. You know, initially when Bing rolled out with the AI thing, I was concerned. I thought, you know, but then it's been a long time, and I don't think Bing has really made a dent in market share. It's not like people are flocking to it and saying, wow, this is like the coolest new way to get information on the web. And I don't really know what the numbers are for people subscribing to GPT for personal use. Maybe I don't think it's that.
I know it's declining.
It's definitely declining. You've heard it's declining. I don't really pay attention to that, but I guess my concern is less and less. You know, at first you just like, who knows, right? Who knows? It's like when ad blockers were coming out, like, who knows what's going to happen? Is that the end of the display ad? Never happened. So here, do I think it's going to impact traffic with Google doing it? Yeah, probably. Will it be a whole lot more than what snippets have already taken? Maybe a bit, but I don't think it's the end of search.
Yeah. So you're going same as usual, going hardcore on display ads with your sites, and that's kind of like your main monetization, but potentially diversifying a little through social, essentially.
Totally. And I've slowed down on new content production. I'm actually really putting a big effort into improving older content to try to pull in more traffic from that. I would say as the months roll along here, I'm more and more optimistic in terms of the future of search. So that's where I've been at. But will it impact search traffic? Yeah, probably some. But I don't think it's like game over for search.
Nice. All right, let's start with the Facebook stuff then, because I've played around a little bit with Facebook pages. It seems when I post memes take off doesn't matter on any social platform, but posting anything else on Facebook, man, it's just like crickets. So what are you doing on Facebook then to get engagement and get it to essentially get Facebook to throw it out to a whole bunch of new, viewers?
Well, I would say in the last 2 months, Facebook really tightened up the reach spigot about 2 months ago. I would say for the first half of this year, it was awesome. And it was like images typically did really, really well. Long images with a link. I've heard some people put the link in the first comment. I haven't really done that. I just put it in the description. And it worked really, really well for a long time. And my pages have grown. They're driving tons of traffic. But, you know, the reach spigot's turned off. So right now, Facebook's not great. I know some people are still doing well with Facebook, so I don't want to say like Facebook's not worth doing. I'm just saying I had a page that was doing extremely well, and now it's not. And I changed nothing. It's just Facebook changes reach. I think the thing with Facebook, though, because I've been on Facebook as a traffic driver since, I think, 2013, it's always changing. And you could have a few months where you're up, and then a few months it's down, and then like for some reason Facebook, you're up again. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. It's not one of those. It's sort of like gravy and bonus traffic. It's hard to count on it as your main traffic driver, just because it's so up and down.
Are you posting links directly into the post? Like you mentioned about putting the first comment. Is that something you're doing? Just posting the link to the article and trying to get people that way?
No, I don't put in the comment. I put in the description. Typically,
Yeah.
my MO for years was just link posts. I didn't do the image posts, and they worked. They would have months where they worked really well, and then again they'd go down. And then I started posting some images, and they started working way better. So I just carried on with the image. I tend to do on Facebook what works. We may come around to where link posts drive the most traffic again. Who knows? And if that's the case, I'll return to that. The nice thing with Facebook, once you have a system in place, it's pretty easy to delegate to someone to run, as long as you got a system for it. And so, I mean, who knows where Facebook will be in a few months.
Yeah. How are your RPMs? Was Facebook traffic versus Google?
Oh, right up there with Google. I would say a smidgen higher, but pretty much the same.
Interesting. Okay. It's definitely something to play around with. And I think people are always looking for ways to diversify away from Google. So that's definitely something to try. But you also mentioned you're hard into Pinterest as well. I think a lot of people fell off the Pinterest bandwagon when they changed their algorithm. You still going strong there? Anything you're doing there to keep that traffic going?
Pinterest has had a nice resurgence for publishers this year, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were down. I've been on Pinterest again for years and years. I'm in a visual niche. It worked and worked and worked, and then like crickets for a long time. This year, nice resurgence. So definitely pushing hard on Pinterest. It's actually a great area where AI content is useful in terms of titles and descriptions. There's nothing more boring than to crank out 30 Pinterest descriptions in a day. So AI comes in handy there. So yeah, I mean, nothing rocket science about Pinterest. It's just it's working again. So I'm pleased about that.
So how many pins are you creating and publishing a day?
A lot, and I use the Pinterest scheduler instead of a third-party tool. I have a VA who's very good with this. She does a great job. I would say 30 to 50.
Wow. Okay. So it's almost like a volume game then, and with Pinterest, it's just trying to get as much up as possible.
Right now, and I've had no problems with that. And I mean, I try to be as strategic as I can in terms of theming them each day, and that's working. But yeah, I mean, I've got a lot to pin, so I do.
Yeah. I love that. So how big is your team then? You mentioned you have a VA for that and potentially someone to help with the Facebook. So you got a relatively large team?
Oh, 6 or 7 VAs and then a couple writers.
Okay.
Not a huge team. I've never been one to want to manage a whole lot of people. That's actually one of the reasons I'm working with an agency for a lot of, not all of the site, but a portion of the site. They're going about it very strategically, but they're going to manage actually some of my team as well. And I'm quite happy about that. I'm not terribly good at managing myself.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, once you start making enough money, I guess you can start to delegate a bit more and kind of take more off your hands to give yourself some more time. But I know your main site, well, at least was or might still be doing, it was doing 6 figures a month in ad revenue, which is absolutely insane to think about just from display ads, that someone can make that kind of money with it. So you mentioned about updating old content instead of publishing new content. What's your process around selecting what needs updating, and then what are you doing to update that content?
That's why I hired the agency.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm somewhat vaguely familiar with it, but I mean, this is people who have done this for years for other sites and are more nuanced about it and want to take the time to deal with it. So I don't know what their criteria is right now. In fact, I'm waiting on the final audit and their strategy. So I don't know actually.
I gotcha. So when was the last time you posted new content on that site?
Oh, I still publish.
You still publish? Okay.
Yeah, it's just the ratio of new content is changed a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. And then because that's you don't know the impact of that yet because that's still being started, is it?
Yeah, I won't know for at least 6 months.
Gotcha.
That's what sucks about this business is you don't know for a while, right?
Exactly. So I've got a bunch of other sites too. What's your you mentioned 15 sites in your portfolio and they're kind of just sitting there. Some of them making some money. What's your plan with them? Are you planning to sell any of them? Come back to them at all?
I did recently sell a site. I don't know. Most of them have all been started in areas that I'm actually genuinely interested in. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I pick one of them and I run with it down the road because I want to build it out. Maybe I try to, dabble and create like a very, very narrow, focused, one and done niche site on a very specific topic and just let it be. These sort of things. Just try different things with it. I don't really want to sell them because in my mind, they have potential.
Yeah. I know that feeling. I think everyone's sitting here probably like, yeah, I don't want to sell my site because I know it can grow so big and you enjoy it. I know exactly that feeling, and I get told to sell shit all the time. But yeah, that's awesome. So when you go into these niche sites there, so for example, maybe someone listening, something they're interested in, they want to jump into it. What's your process for starting that? Does it just start with, okay, keyword research, look at the competition, I can make money? Or is there something deeper involved in the niches you're trying to go into?
There's more to it than just the money angle. I really actually choose niches where I think I can produce the best content for it, because I think that's what it takes right now. Whether I use AI to assist and then edit, or just write it myself, or train a writer. So really niches that interest me. Generally, I could tell quickly whether a niche has some money to it. It doesn't have to be the most. My goal is if it can hit a $25 revenue per 1,000 visitors, I'm fine with that. That's like not low, but it's not terribly high either. It gives me a lot of options for niches, and most of the stuff that I'm interested in will hit that for sure. So, I'm into skiing, and I've got a small little ski site just kicking around out there, and maybe one day I get the time to build that out more, just as an example. And that niche, would it do 50 RPM from ads? Probably not, but it'll certainly hit the 25.
Does affiliate revenue ever play a part in your, I guess, what would you call it, like research into a niche? Are you ever looking at affiliate commissions as the way to make money, or are you just kind of like, I don't care about any of that stuff, I just want displayed revenue?
Yeah, no, the affiliate doesn't really come into play. I am adding some affiliate content to my largest site this coming year, but it really isn't a focus. I don't look at like, okay, what are all the product roundups I could come up with? Most of the niches I'm in, they're available to me to do, but it's not the focus. If they come later, that's great. And if they work, even better. But I really do the analysis from an ad revenue perspective.
Interesting. So how come you don't like to go down the affiliate road when that could be such a lucrative, I guess, addition to the ad revenue that you have on there?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I really just love the flexibility and freedom that ads offer me. I mean, these days, let's say the ski niche, right? Or I also have a cycling site as well. I'm into mountain biking, but let's say the ski niche, and am I really going to go out and test like 20 different types of skis and write about them? And maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it's unlikely. And so I don't really want that to be the focus of the site. Perhaps I'm more inclined to maybe try goggles or something, but it's not, I prefer more the informational. I mean, I think if I built out the ski site, it'd almost be more from a travel ski perspective than it would be a gear perspective. I'm not a gearhead much, except for the smartwatches.
Yeah. That was your almost pure affiliate play, was it, with the smartwatch site?
Yeah, it was. They don't convert terribly well, which was also a disappointment, but it was just a difficult niche to jump into as well. But I had fun buying them and using them.
Yeah, business expense. So, why not?
Totally.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well about Google, you need to write basically the best content for stuff to rank now. So what to you is best content when you're writing some of these informational articles?
I think a direct experience with it really helps. So, skiing, for instance, is something which I could easily write about. What's interesting though is, I think I could probably put together a pretty good ski website. I'm not the best skier in the world. I'm not pro, but it could be geared toward, intermediate skiers, and I could do it from a travel perspective, and maybe even write on just focus on the areas where I tend to ski. And that could be quite good. And I'd get my own photos, and I'd have my direct experience that I could incorporate that. And that would make it good, in my view. It'd be the same with the cycling website with a focus on mountain biking, which I do, and I could write about, again, I always tend to like the travel location aspect of niches. I think that's interesting rather than the gear aspect. I know I'm choosing the less lucrative avenue of both, but that's just where my interest lies. So,
Nice. So are you writing a lot of the content still as well? Because you mentioned you have 2 writers. I'm assuming you're still writing then.
I do write some of it these days right now that I've got the agency involved on the larger site where they're going to onboard some writers as well from their end. So I'm focusing more on writing for Fat Stacks right now, which has been a lot of fun. I haven't had a whole lot of time for Fat Stacks in the last couple of years. So I'm actually putting more effort into it. I'm enjoying it, and we'll see how that goes. But I could totally see myself one day be like, okay, let's take the next 6 months and build out the ski site, and let's see what happens just for fun.
Yeah, you're in that nice position where you can kind of go all in on a site if you want to, and everything else is kind of running smoothly. But when you're bringing in these new sites or creating these new sites, are you looking to onboard them onto an ad network straight away? For example, straight onto Ezoic, or something that has no minimum session count or page views, or are you waiting till you get to these bigger networks?
For me, I'm fortunate. I'm a premier publisher with Mediavine, so I actually am able to onboard sites that don't meet the threshold fairly quickly. So I do onboard them when they hit 5 or 10,000 visits a month.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's very low. It's very low for you then.
Yeah, but that's the exception rather than the rule. So let's say I weren't and I couldn't. I probably would just wait till they would be eligible. And not that Ezoic is horrible or anything. It just takes time, and I don't know how much money it would make. If it were my first website and I was just getting started, I would definitely put ads on it because it's motivating at that point, right? You make $3 a day from this new website that you've created. That's pretty exciting. And so, I mean, it really depends where you are in your blogging business.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people kind of trying to skip the ads until they hit that 50,000 page views just so they can get onto Mediavine versus using platforms like Ezoic in the big. But obviously, there's a lot of people still making damn good money using things like Ezoic at lower, I guess, traffic numbers. So I guess it's something someone's got to weigh up, whether they want to go down that road or not. But it's definitely a personal preference within that. But you also mentioned with AI as well. So how are you using AI in your workflow? Are you using ChatGPT as part of your writing, I guess, content briefs and writing some of your content, or are you just all by hand?
It helps with Pinterest a lot. I use it for ideas, quite a bit of ideas. I'll use it for rote aspects of content where, let's say I need a definition or something of something and it's pretty rote, or facts or something. In terms of voice and style, now it's still me, and I know for a fact the writers that I directly employ write rather than use ChatGPT. And that's sort of where I'm at now. I got nothing against it. I just, for the type of site that I publish, which is very visual, it's hard to rely on AI content for that because it is visual. And we're describing and incorporating visuals and images into the content. They are the content. And so how do you use AI to, they can't describe it. I've tried various AI image describing software, and it doesn't work at all. It's not even close. So
what about your other sites in that are less visual? Is that something you would look to bring in as
100%. Yeah, I've published AI content more on info stuff myself. A good number. I always edit it. In fact, I do multiple run throughs. I've got a whole AI process for content that I would consider publishing. And, I have a whole AI module in my course, so I'm not going to spill the beans about exactly the process. But yeah, it requires multiple run-throughs, very specific prompting to get the more precise information. And I use a number of AI generators to do that. So is it like instant click button type stuff? No, it's not. It does still take time. Is it faster than writing from scratch and cheaper than hiring a writer? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you able to share maybe some of that? I know you mentioned a lot of this in your course, but even just some example of a topic and some prompts that you may use to bring out content that's not just gibberish.
Well, I like to start with ChatGPT typically for ideas because it's fast. It does a pretty good job with that. And then from there, I mean, exactly I call it the sort of I call it the layering technique because I'm running 2 AI content generators sort of back and forth, right? Working them off one another. So I use one that'll generate more of, it'll flesh out the topic more. and I'll actually have to run several keywords or prompts through. And then when I want something more specific within there, I'll run it through ChatGPT for like a bullet list or something like that. And then I'll merge that into it. So it's like this back and forth. And how much I do that will really depend on how long and in depth the topic is. So that's the process. Each topic will be different, but it is involved.
Interesting. Okay, so what's the other tool you're using other than ChatGPT then to go back?
I used the Koala Writer.
Gotcha.
So that does a really nice job with fleshing out, like producing a decent long form version out of the gates. I find ChatGPT is very just cursory, right? It's awesome for bullet points. It's awesome for definitions. Koala will produce this long form, but my MO with Koala is I prefer to input multiple very, very long tail specific, they call it keywords, you can call it prompt, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And then sort of merge multiple outputs into one article. There's a lot of removing, there's a lot of editing, and then there's layering in with ChatGPT as well. So that's the overall process.
So you're getting ChatGPT to create almost like the initial content brief, or are you going and adding the headings yourself?
Just ideas. I don't really outline articles when I write them. Okay. I don't need to. I kind of let them evolve.
Okay. And then once it's evolving, or as you write it to evolve, are you ever going into the actual SERPs themselves and picking things out of there to add to your articles? Or are you just looking to create something so, I guess, unique that you don't care what else is on the first page of Google? You're just going to cover whatever comes up that you think makes sense logically within the topic.
More often, that's my approach. I don't spend a lot of time in Google search for my content. I tend to do everything in a vacuum first. I don't really want to rely on another article there because it's hard. Once you read it, it's hard to ignore it, right?
I know what you mean.
Right? Like I hate that. And then you're just like, I got to throw, incorporate part of that into there. And I don't really like doing that. I really try to just write everything from what I think the article needs.
And if you write that article and publish it and it starts ranking and maybe you need to go back and update it, do you then look at the SERPs to maybe see if there's stuff that you have missed? Or is that something that,
no.
Or maybe you just go in and update it yourself with whatever you think needs to come?
I still update it myself. Now, I'm using an agency to do a lot of updating, but I've updated and I tend to look at it myself. I do use content optimizers to help. I currently use Market Muse, which can be helpful. Surfer sort of lays it out a little bit nicer with headings and so forth. ClearScope's another one. Any one of these, they all do the same thing. I like those. I find those can be helpful. I don't rely on them like 100% for everything, but I find they can be helpful in terms of coming up with ideas. So, if I'm updating, I'm looking for opportunities to fill in any gaps I might have missed on the topic.
Gotcha. And I know you, at least on FatStack's blog, you collect emails, you do email marketing. I mean, you've got things to sell on there too, affiliate programs, all sorts of stuff. But within your actual display ad websites, are you collecting emails on those? Because you don't have anything to sell, but I guess the only thing you can do is send people back to your blogs for ad revenue.
Yeah, so I do. On one of them, I have an email newsletter, and it's not terribly lucrative. It's almost hardly worth doing. It has been one of the great frustrations over the years. I would love to have built up a great newsletter, but it just hasn't worked out, and it's the monetization so difficult. Perhaps my strategies have been wrong and others can do it. But like you say, I drive traffic back to the site, and that's really the best I can hope for.
Have you looked at getting a sponsored?
Yeah, I have that newsletter on Beehive, and I ran some sponsored ads through their network.
Okay.
And it just really wasn't worth the time and the hassle. Like they didn't make much money.
Yeah. Okay. Do you get sponsors on your FatStacks newsletter?
Yeah, like sponsored ads. They don't sponsor the entire newsletter. It'd be an ad placement. Yeah. I mean, that's totally worth it. And I love doing those.
Yeah.
But like, for instance, on the new site, like they pay per click. It's not per opens or anything like that, right? So that was disappointment number one, because if you go to the Bee, and I like Beehive. I think for the money and what you get out of the email service provider is really good. But the whole, what your site could make in email, or what your email publication could make calculator on their site, it's like, told me $250,000 a year. I ran a whole bunch of ads. I think they paid me out $1,000, and so that was nonsense. Of course, I was naive to even think it'd come close to that. But, the thing is, if we were in like a crypto niche or a personal finance niche, I'm sure they do really, really well with those ads. But it just, I'm not in one of those types of niches.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So what's your plan then with Fat Stacks blog? I guess it's your brand, it's your personal brand. It's different to your other 15 niche sites that all run through display ads, because you're sending emails, you got the course and things like that. So what's the plan with Fat Stacks? Is that something you just kind of diving into just because it's a passion to help other people learn? Is there anything more you're looking to grow that into?
No, that's pretty much it. It's all it's ever been, is me talking about what I'm doing, publishing the niche site business model. And it's been very good. I think that what I've done is where I'm going. One, I've got the course, but a private forum, getting more active on social, working that just now that I have time. I am launching the first niche site summit in October 24, 25, all the details on the site. That's a new development. I'm excited about that. We've got 20 plus presenters, and you register for free. So that's the new thing I'm doing with Fat Stacks this year. And I think it's going to be super helpful for a lot of people, because it's going to be a lot of information that a lot of people are giving who know what they're doing for free, so that's great. I'll be presenting as well. Aside from that, it's, Fat Stacks has always been an email centric publication, because that's what I like writing, is the email. And so that's what it's always been, and that's what I'll continue.
No, I love that. Yeah, that niche site summit thing, if anyone's interested, I'll put that down in the description. I'll be doing a little chat on some membership stuff there for anyone who's keen, but that link will get you all signed for free to watch that. I think when this comes out, it should be later this month or the following month. So make sure you check that out too. But yeah, the email newsletter stuff, I think there was a big boom and a big trend. I think a lot of people jumped onto it trying to grow pure newsletters as well, just because they can be lucrative when you're doing sponsors and things like that. But man, going on writing emails, it's not an easy thing to do. Like, at least with blogging, I've got a list of keywords, I know all my topics. But when you're doing a newsletter, it's a free for all. What you're going to write about. So how do you know what you're going to cover?
Yeah, it's a different every day. I get ideas on Twitter. I get ideas on Reddit. I get ideas from what I'm doing. Readers email me questions. I don't know, stuff just comes to me. Sometimes I'll read an article in CNN or Business Insider or Quora or something, and it might even not be related to blogging, but it's an intro and it's an opener and it's interesting, and I could maybe relate it to something. And I try to make it as interesting as possible. I always try to incorporate at least one tip. Sometimes they're like far more concrete. Sometimes they're not terribly concrete and more just informational or even entertaining. So it varies. Every edition varies. That's what I enjoy about it. I don't have to write for Google bots. Yeah. I don't have to come up with keyword friendly titles and incorporate keywords anywhere. I get to just write and send.
Yeah. That is one nice thing about the newsletter. But I wanted to actually come back to your main number one niche site that brings in all the cash. And I don't know if you probably have posted something, but I don't know if I've ever read or watched anything on it. But the history of that site, when did you start that thing? And I guess how long did it take to grow to get to that point?
I launched it in 2014. So it's been around a long time. It's taken years. COVID kind of gave it hyper growth because it was in a niche where it just exploded in COVID. And so that was good. And it's settled down actually since COVID, which is always disappointing. But, COVID was a windfall. It was just one of the neat people were home, and it was a topic that people were interested in. So, up until then, it was just a slow grow year after year after year after year. And that's what it still is. And I know the niche well. I know it has still huge potential. I'm working on improving rankings and trying to tighten it up topically and just keep making it better. Plan to hold on to it for a while yet, just because it's been such a great cash cow for a long time. So
have you had businesses or companies approach you to acquire
Several. I want more than they want to pay.
it? Nice. I think we all want that. But
Yeah.
before COVID, so are you able to share any traffic or revenue numbers, what it was pre-COVID versus maybe during COVID?
Yeah, it was probably like in the 30, 40,000 a month.
Mm.
And I've had months like that after COVID too. It's really settled down. And then I've had huge up months as well after COVID. It's been in a lot of flux lately, and largely due to Google has been very volatile for the last year. And Facebook has been all over the map. Facebook's always been a fairly significant traffic driver. I mean, some months it's way more than Google, and other months it's way less. So as I get these fluctuations, the traffic and revenue fluctuates quite a bit. But it does seem to have a pretty solid baseline, which I'm happy about. And that baseline tends to get higher and higher.
Nice. I really like that. And obviously you play a lot around in display ads. So how were you optimizing your pages for the highest RPMs? Because I mean, you can just turn on maximum settings and just try to spam as many ads as possible on the page. But I know there are other things that you can do as well to help increase revenue that isn't an eyesore. So do you want to maybe just dive into your process?
I really just let MediaMind do it.
Easy as then.
Yeah, I mean, they handle it all, optimization. I do dial back the aggressiveness a little bit, but really they do such a great job. I like how their ads look. I like how they load. I like the tech, I like everything about them. And so I just let them do it. And that's great. I mean, back in the day when I started, it was AdSense and it was manual. They didn't have auto AdSense that they do now. I mean, you had to manually place each ad, and you were allowed 3 of them on your page, and you had to figure it out. And then you could have a couple of what they were called link units. So 5 ads total. And so testing was do one configuration for a week, then change it, track. And this is what you did. Right? I mean, and
now it's easy.
Fortunately, the industry is like I mean, that's how Ezoic hit their stride then, and they were solving that major problem was the time and the effort in testing, because Ezoic split tests everything, and you could even incorporate your AdSense. And that's how I learned of Ezoic. I used Ezoic for years. I was very happy with them because they took all that hassle off my plate. I didn't have to spend time anymore split testing every single ad placement.
Yeah, nice. And then you're using Mediafine's Trellis theme as well?
Yeah, and I love it. You know, it's fast, wicked fast, and it goes great with their ads. But there's no bells and whistles to it. Like if you like a lot of theme features, don't go with Trellis. It can be frustrating. In fact, I've found using various Gutenberg blocks, the critical CSS is so tight it often it'll screw up the block. So very, very limited. And that's just the way it is. They keep telling me they're going to roll out their own blocks for Trellis. I really look forward to that because that'll open up some design to me. But so I'm giving up a lot of design and features with it. But what I gain is a fast site.
It's something that you change, or maybe it's probably already in the theme as well, but things like font size, breaking up paragraphs and things like that, I'm assuming that's already built in and you don't need to worry about font size and things, but is that something you did change or still?
Yeah, you could change that, but they don't give you a lot of options. Well, maybe they do. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you could specifically set your font. And I set it fairly large.
How large is fairly large?
I think 20.
Okay.
Maybe 21. It depends on the font, but that's more because I get annoyed going to these sites, especially on mobile when I can barely read the text. Like it's frustrating. And so I do like to provide, but they also earn more. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. I increased I caved and I finally put ads on one of my sites. I was anti-display ad for a long time. I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm more of I guess you could say a fitness site, general fitness site, but strength sports, things like that. And I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of pages that I'm not going to be able to monetize through other means. And there's going to be a lot of pages. So I was like, okay, I'll put ads on this one. So I've got Mediafine on there. And so I had to make some changes. I have to now like split my paragraphs up more. I added a sidebar for the first time. I increased the font size a bit just so I can start increasing the RPMs on there too. It's just, yeah, it's a whole different game when you start to go down the display road. Because for me, I had no use for a sidebar because it's just like whatever. But I was like, okay, well, if you really want to start making more ad revenue, you got to have some of that stuff, even though most of your traffic comes from mobile, which is, it's pretty crazy that even though you only get maybe 10-20% from desktop, it makes up a significant amount of the revenue just because you have that sidebar.
Oh yeah, desktop is still way more lucrative.
It's an interesting game, but I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to ask you there, John. Is there anything you wanted to plug while we're here at the end of the podcast so people can find you and see what you're up to?
Oh yeah, well, just check out fatsexblog.com. Everything's there. You can hop on the newsletter, which I put a lot of effort into, and the niche sites, some of them I'm very excited about. October 24, 25, you can sign up. It's free to sign up, free to register, free to view while it's happening on those dates.
Yeah, perfect. We'll put all those in the description too for anyone and everyone listening. So you can check those out. You can register. You can get on John's newsletter, see what's going on with all that. Thanks for coming on, John. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, James.